All right. Hello, everybody. You are listening to Loan Officer Freedom, number one podcast in the world today and for loan officers. And I'm broadcasting today in the secret headquarters of the Mortgage Marketing Animal / Freedom Club. And you are listening to the right episode. If you want to hear myself and Cindy Ertman talking about if I'm a loan officer, what should I do now? So I'm convinced that the reason this has been the number one podcast for loan officers is because everybody knew that the day would come, it would be February 1st, 2021, that Cindy Ertman would actually be on the show. It was all building up to this moment. Cindy, it's an absolute honor to have you here, my friend.
Oh, it's such an honor to be asked. It's so fun to be with you, Carl. You know how much I respect you. That's awesome.
Well, cool. So you're located in the beautiful state of California. Where you
I
actually
am,
at over there?
I am in Manhattan Beach, California. I am definitely a beach girl, so I'm in the right place.
Well, it's a beautiful place. I've been out there a couple times, and it's an awesome place. So, Cindy, I know everybody's heard of you, but just in case somebody's brand new to the industry, why don't you tell everybody who you are, a little bit about your background, and then what you and I are going to talk about. If I'm a loan officer knocking on your door, which is a very good door to knock on, if I'm knocking on your door and saying, Cindy, what should I do to ramp up this year? What kind of action items would I do? Where what tree would I knock on? Before we do that, though, just a little bit, a couple minutes here, just on your
Okay,
background.
give you the nutshell version. A 32-year background in the mortgage industry, and basically just decided very early on in my career that I was just going to go find out who the most successful people were in the mortgage industry and just do what they did. I figured I didn't need to reinvent success. So I sought out just the masters, and I was very, very fortunate early on to connect with some brilliant people and really built my career around following successful people and learning how to integrate systems and processes and building the right team. So, I was thinking with everything that went on in 2020 and how much business there was, and it really reminded me of my biggest year in the industry where I hit 200 million. And it was because I had built that team that we were able to take advantage of that market. I went on to run a branch for over 20 years. We had a big branch. We had 32 LOs that I managed, and then went on to build a region for a national mortgage bank from 1 to 20 branches over 10 years. So it's been a big run. And then 7 years ago, just because so much of my passion at that point was, coaching and training and helping other people grow, and I was doing a lot of that internally, decided to resign from all my big mucky muck national mortgage bank titles and launch my own coaching and training company. And now, I'm a full-time coach and just get to spend my life helping other people grow and develop best practices. So it's fun.
So safe to say you're extremely well qualified. I feel humbled by all the success you've had. And I remember back in the day, if I think we can name drop. I think hell, it's my podcast. We can do
We
anything we
can.
want to, right? We can do anything we want to. So I remember back in the day when I first got into business, or a couple years after I got in the business, that I stumbled upon this awesome site called Loan Toolbox that was developed by a friend of both of ours, Tim Brahim. And you were actually on the faculty member of that way back in when it was. I mean, gosh, everybody was on Loan Toolbox at the time. It was
They
like
were. I mean, he built just an incredible machine of support for mortgage loan originators. Yeah, Tim is still like a brother to me without question. I was on his faculty for 17 years. So just pouring into people and helping in any way that I could, which was just a really cool platform. There was, and of course, met so many people through that experience, but I'm sure that's a lot of where my passion for coaching and teaching training came from as well.
yeah. So I used that as a resource for years and years. When Tim finally sold it, it kind of broke my heart. Like it was like I was losing one of my best friends, and it stopped being not in a negative sense, but anyway, it changed. The platform
For
definitely
sure.
changed, but yeah, it was a great source for many years. So you made a statement when we first started this that you found out early in the game. Just find out what successful loan officers are doing and do that. Boy, that's great. That's some great advice. What are some of the things? So, if you had a loan officer that's already, and let's assume, most of the people that listen to this podcast are already in the game. They're already being successful, and they're looking for that next level of success.
Right.
So let's say I'm already in the game. I'm already seeing some success, and maybe even great success. What are some of the things that you think, like, that you see other loan officers doing, or you tell your coaching members, hey, whatever you're doing, make sure you do that. Let's go over some of those things.
Well, when I look at 2020 and what, like, obviously we know with the level of business that occurred in 2020 being the biggest year in mortgage history,
Yeah.
it really shone a light on people's gaps, right? I mean, in a very, very big way. So, and I think there was a lot of people that went into comparison mode because they're comparing, the amount of business they're doing to the people sitting next to them, or they're getting the notifications through their company. And I did coach a lot of people that were really challenged by the comparison and going, how are these people doing so much business? And usually those gaps, from my perspective, are around the team that they have or don't have, right? And
Mhm.
I think when you get so busy in the mortgage business, and look, I became very, very great at hiring amazing people by getting it wrong. I mean, like, seriously, it's how you learn to be better at something. And so I really developed, running a branch in a region, very specific hiring practices and vetting practices to really try to get it right on the front end. Because what happens, as you know, is when you get so busy in the business that you actually don't have time to get rid of a team member, bring in a new, like, so many people just don't have time to even think about putting an ad out and going through the interview process and having to deal with like a status quo person. So I really want to get it right on the front end. But from my experience, the only way I built my business to 200 million in personal production was getting the right team, from a cultural perspective, from a value perspective, from a vision perspective. One of my clients just last week, she's letting go of her processor right now because the processor said, look, when I accepted this job, we were just a little tiny small company and you didn't have all these visions of growth and I didn't sign up for this plan. And she was holding the loan officer branch manager back in a really big way. So she was not growing because her senior processor didn't want to grow with her. And I'm like, okay, well, it's time for a new processor. Like, we can't have you held back because you haven't, your vision changed. You are the leader. You get to have an expanded vision. Now we have to create the team to support that vision. So one, we've always got to be evaluating. We got to get clear on our vision of where we want to go, first and foremost. We've
Mhm.
got to believe it's possible, because if we don't have the internal belief that we can actually achieve it, then typically we don't, because we're so, and I mean, it's hard, and I don't know about you, Carl, because you've been so successful in the mortgage sphere yourself, but it's like, I remember the year I hit seven figures. I
Mhm.
remember going, wow, like I don't think I would have ever thought it was possible until it occurred. And then I realized I could go further. And that always, every milestone just fueled me to go, I didn't think I could get there, but I did. And now I want to go further. And I would start to dive into, when we plow into our fear and we get to the other side, it opens up this new possibility sphere that for me is what just drives the passion around growing and building and expanding our mindset. So for me right now, I think it's really looking at the team. What I'm doing is sitting with people and really going through each team member, getting very clear on, it's not that hard. What happens when a lead comes in, and just have the conversation and follow it through your process. I mean, some very successful LOs right now, their process just, the wheels fell off in 2020, right? I mean, they couldn't handle the volume. Their leads went by the wayside. They didn't have lead tracking or people supporting lead tracking, and they lost so many leads and they didn't see the conversion that they wanted to see. So much of it is about looking at the gaps, because I love that so many top originators right now are looking deeply at the gaps, because they know that if they'd had that addressed going into 2020, they could have helped so many more people and their production would have been so much greater. And so I think a lot of people realize they left a lot of business on the table last year and they could have gone a lot further. So it's really fun to be able to help people identify, like, where are those missing gaps? Who do you really need? What type of person do you need to hire? And then getting everybody clear on their lanes and getting people committed to stay in their lane. Because I was so clear when I got to a certain level of production, Carl, I was like, I'm going to do 5 things. Like, I literally, I built relationship. That's my gift. I'm a relationship expert. I built deep relationships with my clients. I was a phenomenal structure girl. I was in a self-employed entrepreneur market. And so my loans were very complicated to put together, a lot of self-employed borrowers, lots of businesses. And I was masterful at that. And so I structured the deal. I'd lock the loan, I tossed the ball. And my favorite line when I got finished with my client call was, let me tell you how my team works. I'm going to introduce you to my rock star transaction coordinator, and Carrie's going to be your point of contact moving forward. And like, loan officers are so afraid to say those words, but it was masterful, because when I hit my stride in my biggest years, 180 million plus, we were just a well-oiled machine. And we had systems and processes and technologies. And it's so fun when you get to that place, and it feels very fulfilling. And I had a life. I was raising 3 kids. I came home for dinner every night between 6 and 8. I was off my phone. I took 2-week vacations. My kids have been to every island on the planet. We took 2-week vacations, and I was one of the nation's top producers. So it can be done, but it does take a little bit of planning and a little work to identify the gaps to get there.
Man, some good stuff there. I've been sitting here jotting down some questions to ask you as you're going along here. So I had, it's interesting you said, basically in the line of, man, you got to have a team. And I was talking to somebody, I was talking to somebody earlier today, really smart, actually she's not too far from you, really smart lady, very successful in the mortgage business, and a loan officer. And we were talking today, and I said, well, gosh, it sounds like you need some more help. She goes, yeah, but you know how much that would cost? And I said, well, I do, but more than that, I know what it costs not to have that person,
Yes.
right? That's always, people think that getting the help is a big cost. Getting help is not the big cost. Not getting the help and the missed opportunities, that's a check we can't even dream of. But what do you tell this? So how do you handle this where you like Cindy might tell me, or tell a loan officer, a branch manager, a company owner, hey, you need to get your right team together, and everybody stay in the right lane. And they go, well, you know what, Cindy, I'm a great loan officer. I'm a great salesperson. I'm not a great HR person. I don't even know if I can hire somebody. When am I going to do that? I'm busy trying to write all the loans, and now I got to put on another hat and put my HR hat on. Like, how do you juggle that part?
Well, it's a non-negotiable, and I make them put in their calendar the hour that they're going to carve out to,
Mm,
write the ad and get the ad posted. And I mean, look, we all know that to be successful, you've got to carve out a little bit of time to work on your business. And so it really is like, I'm a calendar girl. So, I'll have them go into their calendar, mark the time. They got to go to bed earlier if they can't do it, and get up 30 minutes earlier. But it's really a non-negotiable, because you can't build and grow your business without it.
mm,
And, I have disc profiled everybody for the last 20 years. I'm a huge believer in it. And so I have everybody run a disc profile on their teams, on themselves, so we can really identify, what disc qualities we need. And I mean, I just find it to be absolutely true. I used to hire people I liked, and that was a big mistake. And now I hire people that are meant for the jobs that they're in. And it's so funny. I was coaching a female client of mine that been coaching for 3 years. And she's been so frustrated with her loan coordinator, her assistant, because she just can't, get the amount of business done that she needs done every month. And I said, well, you got to run a disc profile. And we got the disc profile, and her C, which is the conscientiousness and the detail that needs to be so high for an assistant, was all the way at the bottom. And I said, Nicole, I said, you are never going to be able to make this person who you want them to be. So you've got a decision to make. You either have to, help her along the way, and we'll help her land safely and get some, and then we'll hire the right person for you. Or, you're going to be at this level. You can't get to the next level unless you have the right support. So ultimately, she decided that she was running a business and she needed to get the right person. her business doubled, and this was prior to 2020, just because she had the right support and she could focus on income generating and relational activities. And it's night and day. And one thing you said, Carl, that is, I want people to really pay attention to, like, I can't even tell you, because obviously we know top talent right now is rather expensive. They've been paid top dollar through 2020. But the reality that's amazing is, like, sometimes they're worth it. You know, I just was coaching a client of mine on the East Coast last week, and he actually hired an operations manager to come be his processor. And she was making like 150,000 a year. Now he could go get a processor for 60, but I said, what is she going to be able to take off your plate that the $60,000 person? He's like, well, I'll never have to fight another challenge again myself. She'll do it. I will never have to be in the office. I can spend 100% of my time. And so, you know, really when we drill down, he's going to have to do one extra loan a month. And I said, can she provide the space and the freedom for you to go do that? And it was a non-negotiable at that point. He's just like, I got to have her. And so it was a big commitment, but I know that commitment's going to serve him really, really well in his business. And he's going to have a life and be able to expand his business kind of beyond his wildest dreams right now.
You know, I think I've always thought like a big thing that holds people back is that fear of I'm going to hire somebody and the income's not going to change, and now I've got this extra overhead. And I think a big part of it is just knowing of what is possible. You know, I often talk, we put this number in our head. I call it our cruise control number, that I'm a 5 loans per month loan officer. I'm a 20 loans per month loan officer. I'm a 50 loans per month loan. And we find these plateaus, and people think, well, gosh, I wish I'd plateau at 50, until you're at 50 and you're plateaued. And then and we get this number in our head, whatever that number is. And I can't push past this because I got my cruise control on. And if I find myself having a quote, a good or lucky month and go beyond that number, we then sink right back down, back to that same number. And I think, one, thing about hanging out with groups like yours is you see what's possible. And I think that can be a big motivational thing, just knowing that it can be done. And you find, the biggest thing I have found when dealing with these high-end producers, Cindy, is, gosh, there's nothing special about them. They're just normal people. I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, like, they're like normal people. I find like the super high producers and the normal people, they're the same people. Like when I talk to them, they're the same. The only thing different is it's not that one group is smart. They're just, their actions are different. It's the
Yes,
same
100%.
thing anyway. All right. So I've got my, I got my help now. What do I do now, Cindy? So you told me to go get somebody. I got them. What now?
Well, now obviously, that's another thing. I think people fall short on the training aspect because they just don't want to put the time and energy and effort. And look, it's not easy to do, but whether you have to plant them inside your office sitting right next to you to just, become, and I've done that, I mean, I've had people that obviously probably not in 2020, but I certainly have hired people and had them just sit in my office for periods of time, and they become mini me's because they hear how I talk to people and they're a sponge. But also it's just so imperative. In 2020, I just coached a lot of people around saying, okay, I get that you're all virtual and it made it very, very difficult to bring on and train new people. But all you have to do is pop them on the call or pop them on the Zoom and just tell the person that your client that you're talking to that you've got your transaction coordinator on the line with you so that they can take notes. Get them on every call they can be on, because they're going to learn so much more quickly. And we want to get them up to speed as quickly as humanly possible. And they need to be involved in those conversations. They need to hear how you talk, the way you're communicating, your voice. You can get people up to speed so much more quickly, but most people won't, like, okay, we'll get them on the phone first or get them on the Zoom call. But it's really helpful for them to really understand how you're communicating with clients, and it helps them, go up the learning curve just that much more quickly. They have to be involved in your business. And then just once you determine, it's determining where I think having a team meeting weekly, is just critical, because you've got to keep people all moving in the right direction and committed to the vision. I had one of my clients just last week say to me, my process isn't working. I went in the office this weekend. I redefined the process, and I'm gonna lay it out for everybody when they come in today. And he had one person already resisting that he was changing the process. And I said, well, that's one way to do it, but it's not the way I would do it. I would get the team in the room and say, the process isn't working. Let's redefine the process together and get shared vision. You're bringing people together to be part of the solution. People are so much more empowered when they are part of creating the solution versus you're just telling them they're not going to be in lane left anymore. Now they're going to be in lane right. But you lead them to a shared vision that people get behind, and it's a very different energy. People like being part of something bigger than themselves. So I really encourage people to think about where they want to go, bring the team in for the meeting, and create a shared vision. I love doing team coaching with teams and helping them create that vision and decide how they can be better, and getting everybody committed to creating a better experience for their business, and ultimately helping a lot more people, because that's really what it's all about.
So once I have this team, like what is the first things I'm going to transfer? Like, what are they going to start doing? And then now that they free up, now
Right.
that they free up my time, what am I going to start doing?
The transition becomes not going back into the file. When when I said to my, transaction coordinator, as I called them, she is going to be your point of contact moving forward. I really meant that. I didn't jump back in my files. And look, we know that people still will come to us, right? Realtors will come to us, clients will come to us. And if you continue to answer their question and be the one solving their problem, you're training them to always come to you. So it starts with us. And look, part of this is just ego, right? We have to let go of it because it feels really good to be needed and to solve everybody's problems. And so, when you get clear that when you transition it away from that, and, I would just say, you know what, that's a great question. Let me put you in touch with Carrie, because she manages our day-to-day pipeline and she'll have the answer for you. Let me get her to reach out to you right away. Once you stop answering their questions, then they start going to your support team, and you have to train them, right? Because then over time, they don't call you anymore, because you're just going to refer them back to your, LOA. And if you have a great LOA, then it's awesome. I got to a place where, we had like 10 milestones of the loan that we communicated. And, for many years, I did all those milestones myself. I remember getting to the place where, you want to stay with some level of connection, but the only milestone I ever called out, after my assistant let them know their loan was approved, I would personally call them and say, oh my gosh, Carrie just told me that we received final loan approval today. We're so excited for you. We're just so, and I was just the cheerleader. And then when the loan funded, that was my other point of contact, that I was allowed to actually make the call and say, congratulations. But I got to a place, that my biggest share in production, where I literally had about 15 minutes per client. And I remember in the earlier years, as you do, you've been doing this a long time, where, we used to spend 2 hours with every client. But I just got better and better at like fine tuning, building that relationship, finding a point of mutual interest and contact, and building relationship. And it was just all about empowering the team. And my business continued to grow with more team members. It didn't shrink. So they still had it. They just wanted a great process and to feel safe and communicated with and protected. And so I think, the reality is you have to train yourself to get out of your files. All my clients, when they start my high level group, they get a monkey, and the monkey's t-shirt says, don't take the monkey back, because we have to learn not to take the monkey back. We've got to empower the team. And so when my team members, when I was training them, they'd come to me and say, okay, well, they want to put something in my lap. And I'd say, well, how do you think we should solve the problem? And if they didn't come up with the right answer, I would educate them on how to solve the problem and leave it in their court to go fix it. And you know what? And they're going to screw up, and they're going to create problems that you're going to have to fix. But if we don't train them and let go and empower our team, we can't build a really successful business. So, when I got clear on the 5 things I was going to do, I spent my time on building relationship, and my day was, 2 hours a day of income and relational activities. And that was my genius zone.
So let me, all right. So I went and got some help, and their job is to keep me out of the files and beat me with a stick if I try to get back in the files. Right.
That's the perfect assistant right there, Carl.
Yeah.
The ones that won't let you back in.
I just want to make sure when they beat me with that stick, they don't like it. Like they don't enjoy that process. They still do it with love and respect, so to speak. But they're very adamant about, hey, I got this. Don't disrespect me. Which is I've always found that if you try to take the monkey back, all you're doing is disrespecting your team, which is a horrible. That's because when I used to do that, and I did, I'm not proud of that, but I did, and I had one of them ask me one time, saying, if you think I can't do this, let me know and I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
And that was an eye-opening moment. I said, no, of course I think you can do it. They said, well, then why don't you let me? And it was like, okay, I got no answer for that. I got no answer.
So true.
So that was a definite moment. So now that I've got my assistant and I've let it go, and I find out that he or she is got my back and totally in charge of chasing the conditions to make sure they close. And you said, now I'm going to go out and do relationship activities. What is that for me? Me as a loan officer, I want to go get more loans. Relationship activity. What does that look like?
Well, that's where it's the hardest thing for so many people is picking up that phone, right? I mean, it's just and even it's crazy. People that have been in this business for 25 years. I've had so many people, like the secret thing, I'm embarrassed to even tell you this, Cindy, but I'm scared to death to pick up the phone to call a realtor. And so, look, that's kind of the human condition. It takes a while. And, there's statistical evidence that it's the fear of doing it. Once you're actually talking, it's a lot easier. So you have to actually, make yourself. One of my clients last year, I used to be his branch manager, and then he ultimately got into my high-level program, and he confessed that he had never called a past client in 25 years. And I was like, who doesn't call a past client? Like, that was just so, I said, why? And he said, because I don't know what to say. And so we scripted right on that call, a script for him that he felt comfortable with, that made him, feel good. And I said, all right, your goal between now and Friday is to call 5 past clients with the script that we put together. And you're to text me and let me know what happens. So the very next day, he called me. He didn't text me. He was so giddy. He had called 3 past clients, and he got the voicemail for the first one. By the time he called the third one, the first one had already called back. He got 3 for 3 loans in 3 calls, and he had never called a past client. And on that call, he said, I'm increasing my monthly production goals to increasing $1 million a month, because I'm going to call 5 to 10 clients per week. And I know I can increase my production by $1 million a month just by calling past clients. 25 years, he'd never called a past client. And so it is amazing, like what we think is so hard. But this is the thing people don't understand, is that, it's not their business. Like, they want to hear from us. One thing I found last year, Carl, and I know so many people did, is so many lenders fell off the wagon. So many companies, wheels fell off. They wanted to hear from lenders because they were looking for new opportunities. They were so open to talking to mortgage originators, realtors were. And I actually it was very interesting for me. I have not been on the front line with my clients in many years now, but I got a call from one of the #1 producers here in Manhattan Beach. And he said, he and his partner, he goes, the night before we were talking, he said, our lender has not really served us well this year. And we thought, who should we call? We said, we know you're not on the front line with your business, Cindy, but we know you would know who would take care of us. And a top producer, one of the top 3 in Manhattan Beach, they're calling me to try to find a lender. So what does that tell you? They're not getting called by very many lenders. And so I, referred him to my mortgage partner, clearly. But the reality is people need us and they want us, and we offer such a valuable service. And so, I always just, my thing was to have a purpose for the call because that made me feel better. I always make it about them. It was never about me. It's how I built my business. It's what kind of value. And I'm a curious person. So, whether it's my 90-day goal plan that I do with my mortgage clients, I would call my realtor and say, hey, do you want to get together and talk about your 90-day goal plan? I'd love to help you, build and grow your business this year. Do you want to talk about your business? Or, hey, do you want to get together and let's talk about what you're doing to market your business? I'd love to give you some ideas of maybe ways we could help you build and grow your business. They just want more of it. Every time I finish that meeting, I did one 2 weeks ago with a realtor who's been in business for 3 years. I was introducing her to my mortgage partner, and I did a marketing meeting asking her 12 marketing questions. We finished. She goes, how often can we do this?
Mm-hmm.
It's just be there as their partner, is just really, we're in a relationship business. So, be curious, care about them, make it about them, be focused on what you can do. I was not the loan officer, and believe me, it was all around me. I hear all the time, well, everybody wants, they have their hands in my pocket. They want me paying for marketing and they want me. Carl, in the history of my career, I contributed to a realtor's marketing budget 3 times in 30 years because I was really good at my craft and I helped them be more successful. It didn't be, it's easy to write a check to a realtor, but putting that time, energy, and effort into creating value.
Yeah. And one thing I found in my own production, as I'm still an active branch manager, is that those few times, and gosh, I don't know the exact number, but it's probably real close to yours, Cindy, just a truly count on one hand kind of thing. I found that soon as somebody would write a check for $100 more, it's just it's the wrong bait. It's the wrong kind of bait. And I think a lot of times loan officers, and I know I was, when I was first told, well, go help them build their business a little bit, right? Go just like give them some recommendations. I go, hell, I don't know. I've never listed a house. I've never sold a house. I don't know what to tell them. And then I found out all I got to do is ask them questions.
100%. You don't have to fix all the problems.
No, I don't have to fix
It
anything.
is a relationship. And that's why people always go, well, I don't know enough about marketing. Like I remember years ago, and this was Google was a thing, but I remember Googling like 100 best ideas for realtors. Google was my best friend. I would print off the document and go, look, I've researched the best marketing ideas for realtors. I'd love to get together with you and talk about some strategies. I would look at this article written by somebody else, pick 3 strategies that I thought would be great. I did start my career as a realtor, so I kind of knew what they were going through.
Did not know.
But I would pick 3 strategies and I would print somebody else's document off of Google, call them and tell them I had a great research piece on the best marketing ideas for realtors. And I'd love to get together and talk about some marketing strategies. And they don't know what you have. They'd be like, that would be awesome. We make this too hard. We just make it too hard.
I agree. I can't tell you how many times I read Gary Keller's book, which he's
One thing.
that too, which is a phenomenal book. But he also had one, which I think everybody knows. Gary Keller is Keller Williams Realty. He's the Keller. He wrote a book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like 300 pages on best ideas for real estate agents. And I just read a page or two and go, got it. And I'd go teach that 1 or 2 page. Right. And I did that for years and years. And then I found out I didn't even have to do that. But like I found I could just say, like, if you were a real estate agent, I'd say, well, gee, Cindy, like, what's one way you could increase your business, do you think? And you would say, well, I think I could do this. I go, man, that sounds pretty good. What would you need to do to make that happen? And they'd say, well, I'd have to do this and that and this and that. And I go, wow, that sounds pretty good. And if you wanted to make sure you didn't want to increase the amount of hours, what would you need to do to make that happen? I never once had them say, I have no clue, Carl. What do you think? Like ever. they always had the right answers. And I was just like, wow, that sounds, it was just clarification, I think, by asking them the question. So, man, I love it. It's just not that hard, is it, Cindy?
Well, like I've got a training that I lead on 40 questions to ask a realtor.
Ooh.
And I developed that training I was testing something. I was trying to prove a point. And it has been so amazing. But I remember the first time I created this training and I decided to, test it out. And I got this male realtor to meet with me that didn't want to meet for lunch, but I knew I needed a longer time because I had to ask a lot of questions.
Mhm.
And so he told me he'd give me 1 hour. Never forgotten this. I said, okay, no worries. I really appreciate it. So we meet for lunch and I got it kind of in my head at this point. So I start asking him these questions. And the more that I got him talking, it's amazing what happens with communication because I'm not talking about me at all. He starts to open up.
Mhm.
And I love asking clarifying questions, meaning, so he had moved his business from Manhattan, New York to Manhattan Beach, California. We're very different environments culturally. And so he factually, I said, how difficult was that to move your business? So we answered the question. But a clarifying question is to ask someone the same question in a different way. So they can't give you the same answer. They have to go deeper. You get underneath the surface. And I have a lot of personal development training as well. And I think that's where the real gold is. But anyway, I asked him the question. I said, tell me more about that experience of you moving your business. That had to have been a very difficult thing. Tell me more about it. So he went deeper and got into the feelings of what he went through and the insecurity it created because he was this kind of, hard dude from, Manhattan, New York, and that didn't work here. But he got deeper. And then I kept asking questions. And then I started asking questions about his personal life and, where did you grow up? And do you have brothers and sisters? And I went through this whole personal line of questioning. And at the end of our lunch, he said, look, now I want you to, now mind you, Carl, I never once mentioned my company. I never told him what we did. I never told him about my team. I told him nothing about what I could do for him as a mortgage professional. And at the end of this meeting, he said, Cindy, this has been amazing. I wasn't going to tell you this, but I'm launching my own real estate company in 30 days. I have 12 realtors already signed up. Would you consider being a preferred lender for my office? We never talked about anything I could do for him. And that was like so enlightening for me to go, it's just about the relationship. We aren't in the mortgage business. We are in the relationship business. And so it's not just about getting tactical training, but I also really work with people on the internal game because that's where the biggest shifts occur. It's when we understand that it's all energy. We've got to connect on a more human level. We've got to share our vulnerabilities and get real and not always be, up here, but
Mhm.
transition to really get to know people, from a very authentic place. And I always look to kind of create that moment with my clients where there's this sort of point of connection and the relationship, just blooms from there. And then it's not the push, or it's at this point now people are seeking you. People want to spend time with you.
Mhm.
And so it's just, we're building relationship. We're not just counting units. I never calculated a commission in my entire career. I wanted to build a great relationship with one person, and that
Mhm.
turned into thousands.
Mhm. Man, you are one smart person. I can tell you, I am who I am today because of who I hang out with, and I'm just grateful that you're somebody I hang out with, Cindy. And I say that with all sincerity. So I really appreciate you being on today.
Thank you for having me. Such a blessing to be with you. Truly, I appreciate it more than you know, Carl.
Cindy, if somebody wants to know more information or see what you got available to them, what's a good place for them to go to?
You can either go to my website, which is cindyertman.com. There are some great free resources for mortgage professionals there. Or you can email the team at info@cindyertman.com and we'd love to chat. So
All right, sounds good. And Ertman, spell that for us.
it's Ertman.
All right, we'll put a
CIN.
link or something on this page, and and I just want to clarify everybody. So it's no secret. I've got a coaching program here, and some people go, well, Carl, why would you have another coach on here? Because Cindy and I have no rev share. She's not paying, or I'm not paying, to be on here. And I just think, man, you are who you hang out with. And when I find a good secret weapon, I like to share that. And I just find it always works out just fine for Carl. And so Cindy comes with my highest recommendations. I think she's just you're just an outstanding individual. Your history and your past experience, and frankly, seeing who the other people that you hang out with, just really, really cool people. So again,
I get
that's
to hang out with you. I feel pretty lucky too, Carl. I mean, seriously.
well, well, every now and then you have to hang out with us normal people. So so we appreciate you doing
The
that.
best.
So
Thank
thank you so much, Cindy. I really appreciate it. And for those of you listening today, if you think somebody would benefit from this, we appreciate you forwarding this to your loan officers or to your branch managers. And as always, we really appreciate those reviews. I used to say 5-star reviews. I appreciate any review, but if you actually post a review and then you take a snapshot of it and you email that to us at support@themarketinganimals.com, we send you a couple things. We send you a copy of either one or two of my last I think 4 or 5 books that I've written so far. You can pick which two of those you want. We'll send it to you. We'll also send you a nice little Mortgage Marketing Animals mug. So we really appreciate those reviews, because that helps get the word out. And Cindy and I both appreciate that. So thanks again, everybody. We appreciate it. CindyErtman.com, and leave us that review, and we'll see you here next week on Loan Officer Freedom. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.